Good day, everybody. Excited you guys are all here today. This is a fun one for me because, as you guys all have in your own life experience, decisions come at multiple different times in life when they're expected and also unexpected. I say that we have to navigate life either on demand or when crap hits the fan, right? So as things kind of go in these moments, we're sometimes thrust into determining something in a fast-paced window. And then sometimes we actually have time to lead in and we have to decide what's the best choice with all this ample information. I find that in both those situations, it is not always that fun. Like it's something where we're trying to navigate these choices and we're like, I don't want to make the wrong one. I don't want to make the one that's going to damage somebody else. And there's all these things that spin up. And so when I got to sit with this and think about you before I came on today, I wanted to kind of pause and go into my own life, which is where all these lessons and things come from, right? There's a great quote and actually have a painting on my wall. It says, smooth seas never made skilled sailors. And so for all of us, we go through these different aspects of life. We're trying to find out, like, how do we make the right decisions? And typically it comes from making the wrong decisions. You ever heard it before? They say experience comes from, tough stuff, and tough stuff comes from bad decisions. So over time, you make these bad decisions, you learn lessons, you go, all right, let's make them smarter. And so I think through that, we can refine that process. So as I prepared for you guys today, I thought through how I'm going to frame up my conversation. And if you know me, I like to think through frameworks and pictures and words and different letters. And so I thought about, hey, what's the best word I could use for this? And so it's tied to how to determine when it's time to quit the wrong thing. And when I think of quit, I think of leave. And so there's a slang term for leave, and it's called dip. Any ever heard this before? Like, I'm a dip, guys. Anybody? I got some nods, right? And I think for me, I grew up in a realm where this was like the words we use, like, hey, bro, I'm about to dip, man. Like, all right, chips and dip, or no, like I'm a leave. So it's a slang term, but it means to leave, for those of you guys who don't know what it means. And so we're going to go through D, I, and then P. Let's dive in. So dip. It first starts with a D, which is determine. And I think to determine is not just to determine, should I leave or should I go? That's not always what it is. It's determining how I feel in certain situations. There'll be three we talk about. The first one's going to be, is it hard versus is it hurting you? Now, it doesn't sound like it's too different. I promise you it's very, very different, because we're faced with a moment to quit. Or if we think about it, truthfully, we're being met with this moment of going, this feels uncomfortable. Can we all attest that? Like, it just feels uncomfortable. It's a feeling, right? I go, I'm doing this thing because if you didn't have a thought of quitting, it wouldn't be something where it's led with nothing. You'd feel some pressure, some tension, something changing, something uncomfortable. And you go, man, should I stop this? It's a question that's usually prompted by a feeling. And so I go, okay, well, let me dive into the feelings of this is my first thought. And it takes me back to, if anybody knows me in my life, I'm married. I have an amazing wife, but at one point in time, we were high school sweethearts. We were divorced for 3 years, then remarried. I've learned a lot from my marriage, which is why I talk about it a lot, because I find that when you're in situations where you're forced to grow, forced to learn, forced to listen, that it's a great environment to grow and to learn, right? Because that's what happens in life. So my marriage was one of those unique areas. Now, for me, I look at this hard versus hurting. Now, there was a time we went through a lot of crazy. We were, high school sweethearts. We had a kid at 20 years old in college, which is, in case you didn't know, not a good idea. Don't have your kids do this. My son's in college now. And if he called me right now and told me I got a kid, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, it's so to imagine going back. I'm like, right. And then went through a whole journey where we were, great in college, an amazing job of raising a son that I got a chance to play in the NFL. I was there for 3 years, and it was really hard for 3 years. And in my third year, I came home. And all hell broke loose, unfortunately. So I get to this point where I lost a sense of who I was. I didn't quite have an anchor to myself and my identity. I didn't feel like I mattered in certain areas. My marriage was on the rocks. I had a couple more kids with my wife. And so we're in this place where things kind of unravel. And I find myself trying to fight for this thing. And I didn't really have, we'll call it the opposite energy. Right? I was fighting for it. I wanted it, but this other person didn't really feel like they wanted it. And so I found myself in a situation where I had to make a decision between, was it hard or was it hurting? Now, if you all know who's ever has had the words been spoken to them, marriage is hard. Who's heard it before? Hands, I see hands. There you go. Marriage. And it's crazy because when you're getting married, they're like, it's going to be amazing for the rest of your life. You're going to walk off into oblivion. And yeah. And then you get to real life 3 years later, like, I hate you. Why are you not even with you anymore? Like, it's a natural order. And then you get past it because that's how humans grow. But at one point in time, I say marriage is hard, and you never quite know what hard means. You just know it's hard. And what I found marriage to be, it's hard when I have this thing on the tip of my tongue, I can't find a way to get out of my mouth. It's hard when I'm being met with this anger and disdain. I don't know where it's coming from, and you won't communicate it to me. It's hard when I have to make a decision for the family, but I want to go over here. My life wants to go here, but then this means I got to stay tight to you. So I start getting resentment. That's hard to battle through these things, right? Hard's a lot of hard in marriage. And what happens also is sometimes it's hard to determine whether you should stay. Now, I'm not in any way a proponent of divorce. I do not believe in it. I wish that I never got divorced. I think that's why I got remarried, because I'm like, I'm going to do it right, right? And not that it's right or wrong. It just happens, right? And so in this aspect of looking at my marriage, was a window of time when I had to make a choice was, is this really hard or is this hurting me? It was like right on the cusp of divorce, the precipice of that moment. And I remember sitting back and thinking about, well, this is hard. I know marriage is supposed to be hard. I know it's difficult, but is it hard or is it actually hurting my life? Does it make sense? Like, is the marriage hard, is difficult, or is the person I'm becoming while doing this, is it hurting my life? I'm gonna be fully transparent with you. I am not a person that likes to put anything in my body. I don't like drinking. I haven't drank all year. I don't do drugs. This is not my thing. I think there's a focal point that if I can't control my brain, it drives me insane. And so there's a window of time when I'm going through this battle, trying to fight for the marriage, and I'm just doing all these things that didn't really feel like they were in line with me. I was going and hanging out with people that she wanted to hang out because I wanted to be in her world, right? At one point, I was with her and she wanted to have these cannabis cookies, and so I ate these, and I felt gross, if that makes sense. I felt a little bit dirty, and it's not that it's bad. You know, marijuana is legal in a lot of states now. It's not the whole end of the world, but I remember at this time in my life, I was like 25, 26, going through this, and I go, I don't like me right now. Who I'm having to become to keep this marriage in place, it's hurting my sense of self. It's hurting who I see myself to be with pride. It's hurting really a lot of things that make me feel confident in my own skin. So while it was hard to fight for the marriage, it was also something that I felt was hurting my psyche. It was hurting my sense of self. And so I realized at that moment, like, had to make this cut. Now, I'm not saying that it was easy, because it was not easy. It was actually hard to make the decision. But for me, I had to determine, was it actually just a hard thing or hurting? Now, when I think about the hurting thing, that's one side. I want to bring it back to the aspect of hard, because that was one situation where it was hurting my life. And I made a choice to separate, and separately we actually grew, which is what brought us back together. I believe had I stayed in that situation, that dynamic, I am not the man I am today. And so we needed that space. We needed that growth separately, because we've been together since we were 16 years old. We needed that because the trajectory we were going down wasn't the right one for us. Now, I want to bring it back to this aspect of hard, like I said. Now, if I think about something hard, there's this mentality of hard is wrong. Almost like to our sense of like the soul, it goes, hard, oh, it's got to be wrong. It's got to be wrong. These weights are way too heavy. I probably shouldn't be lifting them, right? It's really hard to play this game. I probably shouldn't play the game. Whatever it is, our brain goes hard. I don't like that. And the emotional connection to it makes me go, I should probably stop doing it. When the truth of it is, you should not stop doing something just because it's hard. In fact, if it's hard and not hurting you, I believe it's the best thing for you. Quite literally the best thing for you, because it allows you to get into a situation that most people would avoid. And that situation is, I know that at some point, I don't believe I can go past this point. At some point, I can't run another mile. At some point, I can't lift the next weight. At some point, I can't make the next call. At some point, I can't say the next thing. But then what happens is, at that moment, if you can move yourself past that hard wall, you know for sure you have gotten better. Not many people know this. Not many people can look back in their life and go, you know what, that was the moment when I for sure got better. Like for me, I know that in workouts, this is transparently honest, I am not the guy I used to be when I played in the NFL. I get myself in a workout center, I'll be moving on grooving, and then it'll say, all right, next setup, you have this many reps, this much sets, and you have to do this many, thing. And then you have the rest period of 30 seconds. And I look at it and I go, no way. My heart rate's already like 173. There's no way. If I do this, my heart might explode. I got to get an AED out. But the truth is, I go, no, Anthony, it's your brain telling you it's just too hard. Think about if you can accomplish that, then what happens is, you just got better. Like that's a beautiful moment that not everybody gets the opportunity to experience, of knowing they actually improved and having this step back moment and go, I'm proud of you, man. Hey, great job getting that done. Because so many people get to the hard moment and find really good excuses to walk away, and they feel good about having walked away. In fact, there's science that came out that the brain has two areas for dopamine connectors. And one is an aspect of positivity, joy. I accomplished something, I feel good about it. The other is actually found in the side of the brain where if you are able to find a way around or a shortcut, the brain goes, Good job on finding a shortcut. Way to go to find a better, easier way. And so with this aspect, when we get to hard moments, you could have one part of dopamine go, hey, great job for getting it done. Well done, right? Or the one side goes, yeah, your knee did bother you. Good job protecting your body because your knee was a little bit bothered. You never know what could happen. Sit down. It's okay. You're okay. Your brain feels good. But the truth is, whatever you ran into, if you don't push past those hard moments, you have now reached the limit of your capabilities in life. I hate to say it that way, but it's kind of the truth. If you get to a hard moment, you say, this is the moment I stop, I'm not going past this. Then what happens is every time you look at that line, you go, I've been there before. I don't want to go that far that way. I'm going to stay back here. And so now what happens is my efforts, my actions, my habits, they never go beyond that emotional point or that actual point. And therefore I can't create the next thing for my world. And so we get stagnant and we get stuck.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.